What's up, people? It's the Solar Kid, and this is my podcast, The Other Side of the Sun. Don't forget to subscribe right here. And today I have another very cool, important, special guest all the way from Cape Town, South Africa. I got my man Perspektif in the house. What's going on, bro?
What's up? All good, all good. Important. I don't think I'm that important, but anyway.
Important, man. Okay, we'll say special guest for today's show. Mr. Perspektif,
Yeah.
MC, beat maker, producer, MC, and iPhoneographer. That's a new one.
Yeah. For the time being, there was a short period of time that I was into that. I'm getting back into it as well. Just trying to verse myself a little bit where that's concerned. Photography has always intrigued me. And then I just happened to stumble on the iPhoneography community.
Oh, so what was it?
And
Like just taking pictures, iPhone pics, and editing them, and
yeah, and they had a competition, and then two of my photos were chosen to be in a gallery showing like
that's
literally like months into me starting that specific thing, and then I was like, okay, cool. And then the bug bit. But yeah, before being an MC, I was a spoken word artist, so that's one thing that you.
We share that. We share that in common, actually. But
yeah.
So you started as spoken word. Yeah, we're actually going to tell us a bit about who you are, what you do, a little bit about your history in terms of music and
Yeah. Well, basically, like you said, my name is Perspektif, spelled Perspektif. It's just when you get into the hip hop scene, it's all about like how you customize your name, how you
But for us,
customize
it
your
used to
beard.
be. I remember that back then. We used to always you have to add something.
Yeah.
How you spell your name, and you know what I mean. Make it
Exactly. So to make it yours, make it unique. So when I chose the alias Perspektif, I was like, okay, I'm not going to spell it exactly the same as the English dictionary, so I'm just going to spell it the way I want to. And there's a certain like because I'm predominantly, if not like 98% an English MC, like that's the language that I spit in. When the Afrikaans guys see it, then they're like, Perspektif. And I'm like,
because that's also what I see when I see the name Perspektif.
Yeah. But you see, I omitted the E at the end because that was TIEF at the end. I also got TIF. But there's also a meaning to that as well, is that with me giving my perspective and my opinion and my views and my insights through my music, I do have somewhat of a tiff. Now, a tiff is most like a pool. So I have a tiff with myself because as any individual, we have our views and stuff on certain things, but we also might have come from a different place, like a few minutes ago, a few hours ago, a few years ago, a different mindset, yes. And you still maybe have the previous mindset or remnants of the previous mindset within you. So you have that tough, you have that pull, that back and forth, that fight. And then you also have a tough with the people. Yeah, so it's perspective. Or perspective. Yeah. So early days for me, it started like early 2000s. Born and bred Cape Townian, so I've been on the Cape Town scene. I would say from about early 2000s.
So who was it that was still rocking that time? Was it Gordessa and were they still?
Yeah, it was. So basically, I had a couple of aliases before Perspektif. I was known as Illuminate. It was the whole mindset behind that was to shed light, to bring light to the darkness and all that stuff through my music, yada yada yada. And I was with a crew called Stems. We didn't do a lot of work per se, but that was like my start. It was me and another two guys.
Didn't you have a band as well? The band?
Yeah, the band came afterwards. And then I went solo, still under the alias of Illuminate. I went to a music school. Well, it was like, yeah, it was a music school, 2 years that I was there, and I met up with other musicians, and I also befriended in that time. I also had a friend. There was also an MC. He started MCing like a few years before me, um, and he was also in the same community where I grew up. And me, him, and then these musicians that I met at the college, we started the band called Super Dan.
Super Dan.
Um,
Yes, that is the band
yeah.
I remember. Yeah. I'm sure I
So,
must have
and
heard it.
I was still under the alias of Illuminate at that time.
Mm.
We were two MCs, myself, Illuminate. The other guy was Jean Pierre. He was the other MC. He went by the alias of AK Kaz. We had a lead vocalist. He went by the name of Alexis President. That was his name. It wasn't his birth name, but that's the name he gave himself. He was the lead vocalist, and then we had like two guitarists, lead guitarist, rhythm guitar, drummer, bassist, and a backing vocalist, and that was Super Dan. We were
Mm.
like 8 guys, and we were just
Oh,
like my job was literally to look for gigs. I was like, for most of the 3.5 years we were together, I was like the admin manager type of guy, plus
agent, Alice.
performing, plus recording the guys as well and
Agent.
stuff like that. But and we were just like looking for gigs. Now this was around about the time that Mood Phase 5 was coming to an end,
Mm.
and Contessa was on the scene. So there was this gap of like this funk, soul, jazz, hip hop that Mood Phase 5 was doing. And we were like kind of like on the same buzz, but different.
Yeah.
Same but different.
Because there was
So
what's
yeah,
his name? The Neon Don.
our
What?
deform,
Yeah, Deform. Yeah,
deform, yeah.
he was fail. He was sick,
No,
man.
he was sick.
Whatever
For
happened to him?
me, he went into IT. Now what's name? Now Denver, that's his name, Denver. Yeah,
Yeah.
deform. For me, hands down, if you're gonna ask me like, or if anybody asks me like, name me your top MCs from Cape Town or from South Africa, whatever, I'll always put Shaheen of POC number one
Mm.
because of the influence. I'm looking at influence, obviously,
I mean, if you're
because
talking of influence in, yeah, then POC has to be in there.
yeah, because skill wise, like yeah, I mean the skill has become better and better over the years. But if you're going to talk about skill, even like I mean, Shaheen can still stand his ground today.
Mm.
So Shaheen, and then after that will be Deform. Like I mean, when I
Yeah, I
first
love
heard
him, man.
Deform,
Yeah.
when I first heard Deform, there was nobody that sounded like him, and still
Nah.
today nobody sounds like him.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear of people that have like distinct voices. So like for instance, like ASAP Rock,
Yeah.
or not ASAP Rocky, not this guy that's now out. ASAP Rock
Oh, who's that?
of remember there was a time when like Def Jux, the Raucous scene. So that was like your late 90s, early 2000s. So like on the Raucous side of things, you had what's them? You had was like Mos Def, Kwali, all of those guys.
Mm.
Then you had like also there was like an offshoot of Raucous. I think they were called the Eastern Conference All Stars. I don't know what
Is that
the
on the
sub.
Philadelphia side of things more
No,
like?
no, 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 no.
Oh,
It was basically just like a sub label of Raucous Records. But out of that, Def Jux got born. So it was like your Company Flow,
okay, I
your
remember Company Flow. Yeah.
like those like very obscure hip hop. And ASAP Rock was also
Okay.
part of that whole clique, whatever, Cage them all. But his voice is so distinct, like nobody sounds like him till this day. Same thing with Deform. I'm going off on a tangent now.
Cool, it's
But
cool. I remember like Deform and them when they were on stage, bro. They had such a presence, like him and Ernie, and like you know what I mean,
yeah,
and all that type of stuff. Like
I mean, Ernie also like there's nobody that sounds like her. you know.
I'm actually
But yeah, so
busy writing a song for her at the moment. I'm busy working on some music.
oh, nice, nice, nice,
Yeah.
nice. So yeah, so then we came about as Woodface Five was leaving the circuit, so to say,
Yeah.
or the scene. They had broken up. Godessa was now obviously on the up at that time, and we came on.
Mm.
So that was between 2003 to 2006.
So were you involved with African Dope at all? Because they were signed. I know Mood Phase 5, Godessa, Max
No,
Normal. They were
yeah, yeah.
all.
No. Wasn't signed to we weren't signed to to any label for that fact. We were still at that point of trying to get something going.
Mm.
So we had some success with a radio single that was on Good Hope, called "Take a Walk with Me," and we were working towards an album,
Mm.
and then yeah, our main contributor, and I can't fault him for this. I mean, we were still young. We were between the ages of 20. I won't even say there was some that were like 18, 19, 20 till about 23 years old. So between
Mm.
18 and 23, 8 guys, um,
Too many people.
very very immature guys. Some time to be mature for their times. There were clashes, and that was kind of like why the band never went further. But also, we show up in Boston. We show up at the rehearsal one day. The rehearsal was either by my mother's, by my parents' place in the garage, or it was by the lead guitarist, which was also the band leader. It was by his house, and we show up by his house, and his brother is the bassist in the band. He's the eldest in the band as well. And Bates, or Charles, we called him Bates, and Bates was no Bates. We asked him like, "Yo, where's B?" And he's like, "Oh no, B left for the UK this morning." We're like, "What?" and and this is coming off the back of we done. There was this regen concert, or yeah, it was called the regeneration concert. That was in its, like, I think second or third year, and we had just performed in front of 8,000 people
Mm.
on Green Market Square, like just the previous year or something like that. So we weren't doing too bad. We weren't
Public.
getting like the big
Mm.
paid gigs and whatever, but we were working towards a certain point, and this guy just left.
Nice.
But yeah, he had family. They was living in the UK and in Europe as well, and he's made a good. I mean, he's still making music. He's doing well for himself. Like I said, I can't fault anybody, because if you look back now, you understand, like, we were all immature.
Yeah, you have to just make choices and decisions that, I suppose I did the
Yeah,
same thing as well. I just left. But yeah, so like
yeah,
talking about the early days, man. Tell me a bit about like so like not well, I wouldn't say not many people know, but like I remember we used to fight a lot to kind of let people understand the origins of hip hop in South Africa, and to realize that when shit was going down in the States, Cape Town was already there. Like POC was there, and like you're talking like what is that, fucking late 80s, early
yeah,
90s. They were there. They were making music. I remember because like even in Joburg, they came to our school. They used to go to all the colored schools. Well, you know what I mean. For people who are listening that don't
yeah.
know, colored mixed race people in South Africa. They came to our
Mhm.
school. And I mean, for me, I remember I was like 11, 12 years old. So that must have been like 92, 93. And I
Mhm.
was like, yo, what's this? This is choir. And they were break dancing and spinning and whatever. And then all of a sudden,
Exactly.
in like the late 90s, there's all these American sounding rappers coming on the scene, and they're like, oh no, we the new school, and this is where South African hip hop. I'm like, no man, no. There was like something else before that.
Yeah.
What's your take on it? What's your perspective on South African hip hop in that sense, and like what do you think about it now, like how far it's come?
Look, I think it comes down to whoever has the power of communication. So it's the same thing like with Muslim, when you have conquerors and stuff like and people like that. that have conquered certain places,
Mm.
and then they take over
They write the
those
story.
territories. Yeah, so then their history is like, whose history are you talking about? It basically comes down to that, and it's usually the victor.
Mm.
So if we look at South Africa, Joburg is the business center, and it's like anywhere where you go. If you go towards the UK, it's London. If you go towards them to the States, it's New York or Los Angeles. And if you're not from those places, you have to either to make it, quote unquote,
Go
you have
there.
to move to those you have
Mm.
to move to those places. So that's the thing. Is like, um, I can understand why or where it comes from when people like say like, you know what, um, where the history of South African hip hop might have started in Johannesburg with a certain entity or with certain entities, but that doesn't discredit or take away the fact that like POC and Black Noise and the like were doing it before them.
Yeah.
Um, Again, a lot of these guys also from Cape Town moved to Joburg.
Joburg.
So like on the graffiti side of things, you look at somebody like Hoja. He's
Yeah,
from Cape
Hoka,
Town,
yeah,
and
yeah.
he
He was
moved.
big in
He,
Joburg, like yeah, all over
he
Joburg.
moved to Joburg. You know, you look
All
at
the B-boys
people
as
like,
well, Azanian Flames, all those
yep,
guys. I used to meet them in reality and stuff and whatever, and they used to be performing there.
yeah.
All
Then
those
you look
guys.
at somebody like Rezano, DJ Rezano
Lozano,
X.
yeah.
He was staying in Joburg for a while as well. To many of us, we see him as the godfather of South African hip hop because he was the one that was spinning the first hip hop tunes. Now again, it is debatable. Like some people will say no, it's not him, maybe somebody else, whatever. But from like from what I've heard, um, that he was the first hip hop DJ.
Mm.
And I mean, if you think of it, a lot of times it does start with the DJ. I mean, DJ Cool Herc. That's how it started. So right over here as well, with no radio stations or the venues, no venues were playing hip hop. He was the one that stepped up. So
Mm.
then, for that fact, he's seen in as the Godfather.
Even
So
Lady D should vouch for all of that as well, man. He's still like quite
yeah, I
big.
mean,
And he's from the beginning, like
yes, because was there Lady D and Rizano were in the same b-boy group. But as Rizano was b-boy, he was also DJing, and also before D was DJing, he was basically carrying the records and stuff for Rizano. You know,
okay, yeah.
he got into it based on Rizano playing. That's how I understand the timeline.
Mm.
So yeah, you know what? The thing is, like I always say, now this information is also not freely available, but if you are um in this day and age, you can't play dumb and naive if you have the internet at
Disposal,
your
yeah.
access. Yeah, you have access to the internet. So like the the whole premise, and it comes also down to territory and where you are at as well. So a lot of the guys from Joburg will see it like, you know what, it's a feather in our cap if we say we started hip
Mm.
hop in South Africa or in Africa, which is not merely the case.
I was annoyed because when I see, like, obviously I subscribe to all this SA hip hop, stuff on Instagram, and there was this like Hall of Fame and stuff, and I never saw none of these motherfuckers in there, bro. I was like, huh?
Yeah,
All I see is, what's this guy who's quite famous now on TV as well? Like, I mean, look, guys like Toomey and Double HP and stuff like that. I got lots of love and respect for those guys and whatever. I like
yeah.
what they do. But then you don't see any of the like real originators of the art form, you know what I mean, being honored in that way. But I suppose in lots of things they will relate it to album sales or to whatever, or influence, like you say, or like,
Yeah.
I mean, popularity and all those kinds of things. So
Look,
I mean, it's up to
I
us to
do.
rewrite those things as well, you know.
Look, we had a what's name? Yeah, we had a hip hop museum here in Cape Town. Samuel X
Mm.
he opened it, and I don't know what happened, and then it closed down, and now Osmic, um, what's back to the city, Osmic. he's now looking to also. I'm not sure if it has opened already or if it's going to still open, but he's looking to open a hip hop museum. But in Osmic's defense, he has, and it's not to claim that now because the hip hop museum is in Johannesburg or in Joburg, that's now that where hip hop started. But
Mm.
in his defense, when it came to, I think the awards that you are talking about, um, it was the SA Hip Hop Awards and the Hall of Fame or the
Mm.
yeah, the Hall of Fame. And he, in his defense, he did reach out to a lot of the pioneers here in Cape Town to give them like an award, like a lifetime achievement award or something like that. So there are people in Joburg that they know, man. They do
Okay, yeah.
know,
Yeah, they would know, man.
but I don't think they are. Um, they might not be doing enough to make it to shine the spotlight on the fact that, look, you know what, I did start in Cape Town, and these are the pioneers and contributors to where it got to the point where Joburg latched onto it, or they want to, but they're not in the right position to do so.
Mm. Okay, I mean that's on the past. Now let's move into the
Yeah,
present day through the ages. So when I was younger, I used to fucking hate the Owens rapping with American accents. And like me and my bra, like back then, I'm talking about 99, 2000, my bra Stan, we had a rap group. He was 7, I was a choose. And we used to like rap in the most colored accents you can think of. But it wouldn't,
yeah,
people would never, I mean, first of all, like our accent in South Africa was always regarded as like, you know what I mean, really coarse or harsh. People didn't like the
yeah.
accent in the first place. And then like my bro, like he, like we started kind of elocuting ourselves, you know what I mean, saying words slightly differently and whatever. And then all the guys, I mean, first I remember meeting to me one time back in the day at whatever at Cool Runnings, and I was like, "Yo, man, where you from?" And he was like, "Yeah, no, I'm from Pretoria." And I was like, "What? You don't sound like." And even like, I don't know if you ever heard of guys like Snaz the Dictator and these guys
Yep, yep.
and stuff. They were like, "Yo, what's poppin', son? What's happening, kid?" And I'm like, "Bro, we in Joburg here. Like, why are you talking like that?" You know. But then at the same time, as I got older, I was like, "Okay, maybe I can't." You know, this is kind of they drawing influence from the States. But I don't know,
Yeah.
man. Like even in London, it used to be like that in the 90s, according to like the people I know here. And like now there's an actual like there's a market for London, the
Mm.
accent. People are actually latching onto it now. So why couldn't we have done that? But anyway, besides that's my opinion. Like, how do you feel? Because even back then people were doing it, and up to now you've got all these guys, AKA and blah
Mm.
blah blah, and all these guys that are rapping with these fake American accents. I mean, but then you got the bro that's keeping it real. There, what's his name? Youngster. I like him a
Uh-huh.
lot. But then even some of his songs. But I don't know. I don't even know like what to say anymore. It's like, hey man, this it is what it
Look,
is.
I mean, if
Some people like.
you make an example of Youngster. Youngster also in his first 20 odd mixtapes that he put out, um, he watched them. He was also rapping with a
Yeah,
twang
I
and
heard
with
some of those. He sounds like some of his tracks. You think he's from the West Coast. Literally, it's like he took that.
yeah,
He took that formula and just applied it to West Cape. You know what I mean? Literally, even the leads, like Dr. Dre leads and all that. It's I
yeah,
like the production is hot. Like it's you can't
yeah.
deny that. It's sick. But yeah, I don't
Now
know.
that's now from the album that came out. Most recently, I think about last year, the album came out.
Mm.
Um, I think he done that. Look, when it comes to things like that, I'm not like the biggest fan of blatantly sampling stuff, but I think he done that to have some familiarity, man,
Commercial
to
appeal,
the
isn't it?
music because the thing is like people can easily um, understand like okay, it's an interpolation um, of a Dr. Dre song or um, where does something that sounds like what Snoop done on next episode, you
Mm.
know. So so the thing is like I think it's just like for like what's familiar to the ear, people will gravitate to that. So I think he done that for that effect. But I'm referring to like when like before the album when he just started out his early mixtapes.
So I don't know any of that. Yeah, I don't know any of that stuff.
Now I was given one of the songs of his songs to mix, for one of his mixtapes. I was dealing with at that time a guy that was then producing for him. So anyway, Dale gives me files to the song, and he tells me like, "Look, can you mix the song for the mixtape?" And I obviously, in the mixing process, you literally like loop in sections or over and over and over. And I got to a point where I was like, "Yeah, like this twang is getting to me." And no disrespect, no disrespect, because I still told somebody, I said like, you know what, this kid has potential. I just want to hear his voice. I want to hear his voice. And I'm glad that he's finally, for the last, I would say, 2 years, maybe 3 years, he's gotten into himself. He
Mm,
discovered his voice, or not even discovered, just maybe got to the point where he started to realize that, you know what, my fan
it's
base
real.
is here, and my fan base, they speak a certain way, like I actually speak. So let me do it in that voice. So yeah, that's good to see. On the whole thing of why back in the day we didn't um just rap in our own accent, and why do we adopt an American accent? I think again it comes down to that. It's like the guys who were coming out that time, like the snares D's, the Toomies, everybody that mentioned, Zabs, even here in
Bro,
Washington
what's
Cape
his
Town,
name? Proverb. Proverb.
well, yes, there was guys in Cape Town as well. Is that I think at that time mainstream hip hop, mainstream rap music, stateside was really starting to blow up.
Mm.
And again, to I mean, yeah, we used to I used to hear it, and we used to hear it a lot coming up. It's like, yeah, it's just a fad. Everybody's telling you it's just a fad. It's gonna blow over. What is hip hop? What is this spinning on your head nonsense and all that stuff? It's like that's how the media saw it. That's how your family saw it. That's how
Mm.
everybody saw it. But we knew better. But the fact of the matter is that also what you are exposed to is what you're going to show, basically.
Mm.
So we all were also exposed, whether it was gangster rap or conscious hip hop or party hip hop, whatever. We were exposed to stateside stuff. There was very few of us that were fortunate to be also exposed in maybe to the UK scene, to the European scene, and
Mm.
stuff like that. Um, those are usually the guys that were explorers and diggers. You had to go dig for music. Even if you weren't a DJ, you literally just went to the record stores to go dig to
Yeah,
hear what was,
yeah.
So, but in that, for that matter of fact, it's like what you were exposed to is what you sounded like.
Mm.
So I mean, there's a lot of guys. Like, I mean, Proverb, you can hear like this a distinct cannabis
Oh
influence.
yeah, you can hear he loved cannabis
He
from the
loved
start, man.
cannabis. So you can hear that. I mean, you can hear that battle rhymes, that schemes, everything.
Mm.
That's cannabis. So um, it comes back to what we were exposed to, and I think when our own accents became fashionable, that's when
Is it
we
fashionable yet?
decided. No, it's fashionable now because now everybody wants to do it. But I think it's also, I would say, I don't know, I can't pinpoint exact time and place, but I would give some of the kudos to the Vernac guys, because
That's
in
right, because
Vernac,
there was like Double HP, there was like Zulu
yeah,
Boy. So you see, I used to
yeah,
respect them, but more because they would rap in, you know what I mean, Zulu or Xhosa or
yeah,
whatever
and,
language, you
and
know.
Zulu Koza or Spaza, the Spaza rap scene, like that here in Cape Town, that and Eretics and those guys.
There's also another bro
And
raps in Afrikaans there. What's his name?
who?
Jitsvinger.
Judge Fingers. That is a lot of Afrikaans guys. Like the Afrikaans thing is like has been there from the beginning already. There was a lot of Afrikaans guys,
We
but
got
and
Black
I mean
Cream
I'll give
in
it
we got Black Cream in Joburg. You ever heard of Black Cream?
um that name
So
sounds familiar.
they also used to rap in Afrikaans and that kind of stuff from Eldos. And they were
Okay.
always repping that. They did all right. Like, I mean, they were okay kind of on the scene as well back then.
Yeah. No. So what's them? So I mean, there was the Afrikaans guys were always there, but again, you see, the thing with Afrikaans and South Africa, there's a stigma to Afrikaans. Afrikaans is technically our language. Colored people,
Yeah,
for your international audience, mixed race people, it's our language because it was the slave language. It was the language that the slaves spoke
that was
here
developed
in
in the
Cape Town.
yeah.
Yeah, because Cape Town was a Dutch colony. So the Dutch master has to speak to the slave, and the slaves have to speak amongst themselves. So they came up with a dialect which was Afrikaans.
Yeah, because for
So
me, Afrikaans is a Creole of Dutch, basically. You know what I mean?
basically, but also it also has you're right, Creole, because it has a mixture also of Nama languages,
Yes,
Nama
definitely.
sayings
Kwai,
and
all
stuff.
these things. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all in there as well. We now call it Afrikaans, um, to kind of give it a separation from Afrikaans, because Afrikaans now got the stigma of it's a white man's
Pura.
language. There's a certain way you speak it. They savor Afrikaans, and the way Cape Townians
That's
speak
what
it is
they
different.
did.
But
No,
the
that's
way
what they did. They did
yeah,
that
but
when
the way Cape
they
Townians
created their
speak it,
folk start,
the way
isn't
yeah, but the way Cape Townians speak Afrikaans is actually the original way Afrikaans was spoken.
it?
So anyway, so but now because of that stigma, you had a lot of Afrikaans guys. I mean, Mr. Fat of BDK, may he rest in peace. He was rapping in Afrikaans for the longest time, but it never caught on. The reason why there was the Fanatic guys like the Spaza, the Zulu, the Xhosa, and whatever other languages um, that they were split in, why that became more viable and got more mass attention. And then the English guys realized that like we don't have to put on the accent because they're not putting on the accent, so
Mm.
we can still rap in English, but not with the accent. That became viable because those languages that make up the vernac scene, so to say, or the spaza scene, those languages weren't viewed with a stigma.
Mm, mm, mm.
You know, it's like
It was cooler.
yeah, we Afrikaans was viewed as a stigma for the wrong reason because like it's seen as the apartheid language or
That's
seen
the thing.
as
I
the
suppose
racist.
that's the thing is basically, and I mean you get that a lot from. I mean, especially with the racial tension and issues that we've been through in the country. Like a lot of like black people will look at colored people as close to the white man, and kind of, you know what I mean. That's why we always kind of fell in between that gap, because yes, we were, a lot of
Yeah,
people don't realize how big a part of the struggle we were, because we weren't first class citizens by any means. We were marginalized,
yeah,
you know what I mean. But just because we
exactly.
were given slight privileges, and because of the divide and conquer, you know, and how they
Yeah,
split us up and created these weird minds, everyone had these opinions of each other, you know what I mean. And that's why that Afrikaans thing, because we spoke Afrikaans, is like, you are trying to be like the white man or the instead of understanding that it's originally the language that was spoken in the Cape, you know, not
yeah,
only by colors, but by everyone, because it was such a
yes,
multicultural, you know what I mean? You had the slaves from the East, all the local people, the Xhosas, the Bushmen, you know what I mean? All those people living together before
yes.
you know, they took us apart.
I mean, if you think of it, Afrikaans is actually an indigenous South
Yeah,
African language.
yeah.
It's a proudly South African language, so to say, because it's originated here. We're the only ones that speak it. Nobody else, like no other country outside of South Africa speaks it, unless you're obviously living outside South Africa, but you're born here.
Namibia, don't
So yeah.
Namibia, they speak Afrikaans as well. Oh.
Oh yeah. Let's not forget. Yes, they also
But
do.
they
They
speak
do as well.
German as well. So
Yeah. But yeah, so look, coming back to the accents, it still happens. There are your guys, your AKAs, your
what do
nasty
you think of
C's.
these rappers, man? What do you think of these guys that are so big now? Because they like, I mean, we would have never thought back in the day that you could be a rapper and be making like millions and be living in big houses and shit in South Africa from this stuff, man.
Yeah. Um. Look, I think it's good. I think that everybody deserves to eat off of their talents. Um, I've always been about the foundation not being watered down. That's always been my thing. And when when I look at hip hop, because I never refer to it as rap music. For me, it's always hip hop. Rap music is obviously one pillar of hip hop, and then obviously you get the other elements as well. But when I'm referring to it, I'm always referring to it as hip hop, as the hip hop culture. And when I see hip hop in the mainstream, I would want to see something that resembles the foundation of it. And when that's not there, then I refer to it as rap music.
Okay.
Because then it's just like, okay, that's the industry. I can understand that. I respect that's what it is. But I'll always be to the core. I'll always be about the culture first and foremost.
So are there any like originators, like anyone like that's, because I mean I seen like all these I mean there's one or two like of these women that I've seen now. What's this girl's name that's also quite famous now? But they just look like carbon copies of, like, she looks like a Nicki Minaj type chick, this girl. Like, what's her name now? I can't remember.
Not in Ike, not in the guy.
Oh yeah, her, and then there's another one.
Boiti.
Yeah, Boiti. She's a newer one. I like when I look at the videos, the music videos, and then there's that kid that raps with her in the one video who's also a young kid who's now just blown up with a major accent. Nasty C. So for me, it just looks like carbon copies of like whatever. And look, I can't like I don't knock it. I can't knock it anymore, because now what I've noticed, you know, those guys who do the hype videos, like when you release a video and they whatever. I see people in the States are now bigging up the South African rappers and stuff. So it's like, if they like it, then, you know, who am I to say? Because they're rapping in their accents, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, there's a whole thing on YouTube now is the reaction videos.
Yeah, the reaction videos. Yeah, that's all reaction
to your video or to your freestyle or whatever.
I see Nasty C on he was on Hot 97 and all these things with Ebro and whatever, and they rating him. So like speaking to T.I. and whatever, and they all giving him props.
Exactly.
So what do I know? You know what I mean?
Look, the thing is, okay, that's a double-folded, double-sided, two-barreled question, and there's going to be a two-barrel answer to it as well. Look, it comes down to this. The thing with Nasty C, them. Okay, firstly, everything changes. So we would be naive as an older generation to think that the scene was going to stay the same. It was never going to stay the same, because stateside we could already see that they also went through their changes. It didn't stay the same. I mean, who thought the South would dominate hip hop for a number of years? New York
who thought fucking guys with colorful dreadlocks and autotune would be dominating the charts?
Exactly. I mean, New York never thought that would happen until New York they started sounding like the South, just to fit in. You know, so the quote unquote beginning of hip hop now has to sound like somewhere else. You know, that's basically what it comes down to. But yeah, the other side of the coin is that look, Africa has always been a place where things get taken from, and then we get sold back a finished product. So, you know, if you look at hip hop as well, everybody goes on like, yeah, it was hip hop's birthday now. August the 11th? What we now the 13th? So 2 days ago, it was hip hop's birthday, and you know the whole thing about like which on their side is also even debatable, that it started at 1520 Sedgwick Avenue when Kool Herc threw a party, and his sister Sydney Campbell, she's the actual one that was the party party organizer. She booked her brother to play there, blah blah blah. But then you get other guys from other woods say like, no, he wasn't the first guy to play break beats and stuff like that, because there was other guys doing it before, you know. So that's a debate on its own. But the whole thing, the way hip hop has been packaged, you know, like the four elements. If you look at Africa, the praise singer, the dancers around the fire, the drum beat, all those elements the rock paintings, all those elements are technically hip hop, but just in a primitive form, you know. So what we see now, so like we've been sold the culture back to us where it started. But anyway, the thing is also when it comes down to Africa, when there is the world will only look at Africa or look at us when there is an opportunity for the world. So that's how I see this whole, and nothing against Nasty C and the like that is making waves in the States and stuff, but the States, like you'll always see, they're always looking for something new elsewhere. You know, whether it's Beyonce
Now they
being
are. Now they
influenced,
are. Now they
yeah,
are.
but whether it's Beyonce being influenced by sounds from wherever in the world or dances
Taking South
from
African
Africa and,
dances
and
and
incorporating it into a music video and stuff like that. They're always looking for for um for influences and for I always even say influences, but just for something to spark their creativity. Because I'm not downing their creativity. There are creative people there. There's a lot of ill musicians and dope artists that side. But any artist and musician is going to they sometimes need that spark, something to spark the creativity. And that's what we see with them. So they are looking at us. And when you have people that sound, or you have artists that sound like them, it's just
easier
easier for
to
them to get
to
to.
digest.
So
Yeah.
you have your Nasty Seas that has been on Sway in the Morning and Hot 97. You have your Casper, your Vest, you have your Stogie T or Tubi, as I still refer to him as.
Yeah, I
Um,
changed his name to Stogie T now.
Yeah, it's just a change up for the younger generation, and I take nothing away from Toomey. Toomey is still bar for bar
One of
one
the
of
best.
the illest, nastiest on the mic. Um, but because he rhymes with the accent, he talks with the accent, is easily digestible for the American market, and it
International
doesn't
market for that matter.
the international market, and it doesn't. It's not a bad thing that he can spit, you
Mm.
know. Now, but that's I don't want to put Tubi into this conversation, because the thing is that Tubi and the Volume were was touring the world before. I mean, they were
Yeah, they were
big in
all
Canada,
over
performing a lot in
Canada.
Canada,
Yeah,
you know. So he's like I wouldn't put him in that box, but because he has the accent, yeah, he kind of now falls in that box. Um, yeah.
hey
and
man,
and
let's
also
yeah.
I've seen the reaction videos of UK grime artists where States guys do their reactions. Now the accent, I know with the UK grime guys, the accent and also the pace of the beat and the tempo that they're rhyming at, it can be a little bit difficult for the US market, which is used to a more slower rap style. So now I don't quote me on this, but I can foresee like a Nasty C or to be leapfrogging UK grime artists' impact on the States purely based on the fact that they sound more American than the UK grime guys.
Maybe in the States, but there's a massive
Now, not in the UK though, not in the UK.
yeah, no. But besides the UK, what I'm saying is like there's a massive drill. You heard of drill music?
Yeah,
Which is now an offshoot of like grime and whatever. That is like
yeah,
blowing up massively in New Zealand, Australia. Like there's this
yes,
whole in Larry, I thought they were speaking Afrikaans. It was in Amsterdam, and they're dressing like London. You know the way the London grime artists with the tracksuits and the caps and stuff. It's
yeah,
blowing up massively. But I remember seeing
yeah,
like these reaction videos and the guys like talking about these UK artists and not understanding the lingo. And obviously, because I've lived here now, like I mean, I'm fluent in, you know what I mean, the local dialect, especially on the wood scene or on the grime scene and that. And it was
yeah,
funny to me how they were like, but now like, I mean, a few years ago when Skepta started blowing up in New York, and all of a sudden Drake is bringing all these people on stage and helping
yeah.
to grow the market. I think it's a good thing, man. It's opening the eyes of the Americans for change to see like, yo, yous are not like a island, you know what I mean? Yous are not the
Yeah.
be all and end all of creativity and
Now
music.
look, look. I I I know I want to say like I'm fluent in the grime scene, but like of the UK guys that I love, like Kano. Oh, I love
Kano is a
Kano's
G,
music.
bro.
I love, yeah, Kano is dope. I love Kano. I love um
Gets,
who
gets.
gets no definitely gets. I love gets energy. Actually gets and Kano together. Oh my goodness! Like I've obviously been checking like the what's in the comments and stuff, and like people are like wanting a collaboration album between the two of them. Like that will be amazing.
Mm.
Um,
They are
yeah,
like
and
of the
obviously,
founders, like of they
yeah,
seen as part of the founders of the grime scene as well.
yeah, and obviously Wiley, and then Dave is nice. I like Dave as well.
Mm.
Loyal Corner, yeah, Loyal Corner is nice.
David the Good is a
Um,
very intelligent kid, bro. Very, very
I
intelligent
very
kid.
intelligent,
Mm.
very intelligent, and he's nice with the piano. Also, I saw like a live show where he's like
I
on the
don't know if
piano
he was
playing.
actually playing that piano, but yeah, I remember
Yeah, you
that
really,
performance. I don't know if he
all,
was playing it but yeah,
all for performance, all for performance sake.
he was performing
Um,
Black at the Brit Awards on that in that performance you're talking about.
Oh, and then
Oh,
what's the
Black
Rich 32 also? Rich
Rich,
32.
yeah.
Yeah, he's nice with the pen as well, though he says he doesn't write his rhymes. Gigs, look, I know Gigs has got
Gigs
this
is hard to
slow
listen
flow,
to. Yeah.
but there's some songs where Gigs is just like on point, in pocket,
You know
and
what it
I
is?
can,
It's that, like you say, the pocket is he
yeah,
created his own pocket. Do you know what
yeah,
I
he
mean?
created his
Each
own
flow
pocket.
is like his own thing that he came up
And,
with.
and you know what? Coming back to that now, coming back to the accents here in South Africa, especially Joburg, MC, or actually not even Joburg, just the broader South Africa, because there's guys here also, colored lighters in Cape Town that are also sounding American and stuff. That's what's missing, man. Like what you not talked about, Gigs created his own pocket. Where there wasn't a pocket, he created his own.
Mm.
And that's the thing, is like I come from a time where you had to sound authentic, man. You had to sound like you.
Yeah.
You had to come up with your own style, because your own style set you apart from other people. Because there was a lot of MCs, a lot of rappers coming up trying to figure out like
Yeah,
how
I
to
remember
do
that,
this,
man. I remember
you
that.
know, what makes sense, what's gonna sell, like whatever. We had to figure it out. We were figuring it out on the go. And now every Tom, Dick, and Harry sounds the same. All the beats on the radio, if it's trap beats, the trap beats sound the same. I had a guy that gave that a friend of mine sent me a trap-ish beat. I'll call it trap-ish beat.
Is that
And no, like look, he's a house DJ that that is dabbling in lo-fi productions. He also makes beats and stuff. So he's dabbling in, besides the house stuff that he's doing, or the dance stuff he's doing, he's dabbling in the lo-fi sections, and he's dabbling in like the hip hop beats as well. And he sends me this trap beat, and I'm not gonna lie, I messaged him. I told him, you know what, this is what I like. I like it when a genre is made and it doesn't sound like the generic copy and paste. Because that's what you hear on the radio. You hear it, the
mm,
copy and paste.
mm.
But this the step beat that he sent me was very jazzy, but it had the trap elements, but even the programming of the drums wasn't your typical thing.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that so that's nice to hear. But when you have everybody copying each other's accents, each other's styles, each other's cadences,
That's the thing
when
is
they
the
copy,
cadence, the copying that flow, that same flow. It's
oh,
even it's now it, and when that happens, it transfers into the pop world, and then you hear it in every single pop song. You hear the trappy hats, you hear those flows, the way they sing it, the start stop singy vibe in everything, man. It's weird how
yep,
these, like I always tell people, like it must be the global culture and the internet, because when we were younger we didn't have the internet. So like New
yep,
York had a scene, London had a scene, they used to dress different, Tokyo would have their own scene, they dress different. Now everywhere in the world people have the same looks, they're wearing the same clothes, they're listening to the same music anywhere in the world. You know what I mean? So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, like maybe in terms of connecting or whatever, but like you say,
yeah,
there's that element of people not trying to innovate their style. They rather just find the formula and then copy and paste it, and then you be the, the best at it. Like even like with the rappers I work with, a lot of them, I had to get my head around the fact. Like I don't know if it was for you, but when we used to be on the block or whatever, and everyone is doing bars, it had to be like off the top. You know what I mean? When
Yeah,
you freestyle, a freestyle meant like you must make it up as you're going along, and that's why I never
exactly.
used to always jump in the sci-fi. I used to jump in and out, unless I was like a gesape or something. Then the words just flow. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
nowadays it's like, and that's changed over time. I've noticed, and I mean, a lot of people. There was some bras I knew that like they just memorized loads and loads of bars, and then when they cipher, they can just like patch,
yes.
rhymes together. But now
No,
it's
but
like
that's
people
what
rehearse writtens, and then they call it a freestyle.
but that's what I was going to say earlier on when I was talking about the genre and the culture changing. That I was going to actually mention, which I forgot to, but now you just jogged my mind, is that the terminology changed as well. Like
Yeah.
freestyle in
Yeah.
the beginning, like we talk about Melly Mel time, like the beginning of the rhyming. Freestyle was literally a non-conceptual rhyme. So
Yeah.
it was something that was not going to appear on your what's name on your album. It was something that you wrote, but it didn't have a concept to say. It was just random rhymes put together, but you wrote it down. That was seen as a freestyle because you would rhyme it maybe in a cipher. You would do it maybe on the radio, whatever. But it wasn't a verse that was going to appear on a official release. That was no, for real. That was
Yeah, that's
what
how I
was known
remember
as
it.
freestyle. Then you can go check out the docu freestyle the art of rhyme. I think they talk about it in the or in the Ice Cube one that he done. Something from nothing, something like that. Yeah. Anyway, and then what happened was in the 90s, the early 90s, the terminology took on a different definition. The definition of freestyle it was off the top
Mm.
because that was with the birth of freestyle fellowship and those guys on the West Coast. Because on the West Coast, um, and in Chicago and those areas, they were literally freestyling off the top. Where the New York MCs were still doing the non-conceptual one. I've written this down. It's not for my album, so I'm going to
But
use it as a freestyle.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, so then freestyle was like off the top. It can't be written down. You have to really, you basically have to pluck this from thin air.
Yeah, just make it up
Um,
as you go along. Yeah.
yeah, make it up on the spot. And now freestyle has gone back to the quote unquote original meaning where non-conceptual, you've written down this, there's no concept, it's just
But
multiple thoughts put down and that's your freestyle. So long as it also doesn't show up on the official release, so that the freestyle show up in the mixtapes and stuff like that. And that's what they tell the freestyle now.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because I
because
mean,
I see like the guys are doing freestyles, but then the bras in the background are like ad-libbing their bars, and I'm like, how is this a
yeah.
freestyle when your bra knows your bars? You must have done this a few times. This one, I swear you must have
Yeah,
spent this on a few times, man. So
but
yeah, no.
you were talking earlier on now about the what's name about the each place had its own style. London, New York, Tokyo, and stuff like that. I'll touch on that as well because yes, it does come down to the internet. The internet has connected all of us because prior to the internet, we were sharing music via tapes, CDs, whatever. Even before CDs, we were sharing via tapes. We were waiting for your songs to
Recording
play on the
Metro FM.
radio. Yeah, then you record the song. You used to what's the you used to make beats also on the tape recorder, stuff like that. So yeah, it's like old
Until
school.
the beat sounds fraught.
Exactly. But we literally had to connect with each other. Like in Cape Town, I don't know if Joburg had it, but we used to have the writers benches where MCs or graph artists would connect maybe on a Friday in town somewhere, and we would share like the graph artist would like share pieces that will show like, oh, this is what I sketched in my sketch pad, or are we gonna go bomb
You
this
see,
train at
that's
this
kind of
time,
why
whatever.
I think that's kind of why like we or me and like a lot of my friends we always look to the Cape because in the colored community in Joburg it wasn't as big. In Joburg it was house music. You either want to be
Yeah,
a DJ or nothing. Like even me, like they used to, you know how Joburg guys, like especially the Tsotsis or whatever, they had this clean cut, nice style with cavelas and no socks.
Yeah.
Cape Town was different to that. Like for us, me and my brothers, we used to dress like hip hop, like baggy clothes. So they used to call us funkies, and we were like
Yeah.
a very small, like say, obviously like in the black communities there was more like when you go to town or to like the market theater, then we all come together, the hip hop heads. But it was really small in that sense. Whereas I always used to look to Cape Town because there were more musicians and people that played instruments, and I suppose
Yeah.
maybe because there's more colored people there, like you know what I mean, than anywhere else in the country. But I always used
Uh,
to look to that. Because Joburg, it was just house music. You want to be a DJ and doof 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 all day, every day, like, non-stop.
no, look, I love my house music. Like, I mean,
Yeah, of
I got
course.
into house music also later on. I love my house music
I
and
came
stuff.
back
But
to it.
yeah, but I think that early, or no, I want to say it wasn't the early days of hip hop, but when I got into it, so my early days, there was the sense of community, man. It was like, and it wasn't like everybody was singing kumbaya around the fire, because it was still like there was still competition. You know, it's like who's the best. There was still competition, but there was the sharing as well. But it was most of the time amongst a certain generation. So like you would have the first generation, second generation, and so forth of hip hop in Cape Town. There's always been this whole thing of like the previous generation doesn't share with the new generation. You know, it's always been like that. I didn't really get that because I used to flow between generations, and
Yeah,
I
same.
had older I had older peers that taught me, like your Zanos, your Shaheens, etc., etc. I had those people that I could go to. So I never got a weird vibe from them. But then you would get other people around. I would hear them say like, "No, but so and so gave me. I asked for help. They didn't want to help me out. Whatever. You know. At the end of the day, it also comes down to how much you're willing to put in, man. You know, you can't just get a free hand all the time. It's like, you know what?
Yeah,
If
you
you
have to
put in the
like earn
work,
your keep. You have to earn your
yeah.
stripes. Yeah.
If you put in the work, then the NEDs or the whoever is going to see that and acknowledge it, and then that's how you build relationships. But yeah, so we had these the writers benches, and people just used to share stuff like that. Where now you have the internet, and the light is they are not like this. I'm sure there's still healthy community, so to say, but I would care to think that our time, our community was healthier in the sense that we we were more in touch with each other, you
Mm.
know. But yeah, so we went off on a tangent now. But I was trying to make a point with that internet thing. Oh yes. So who Questlove is.
Yeah, of course, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amir
So
Thompson.
Questlove said, yeah. So Questlove, and this points to the fact that you were saying like New York has its own style, London, Tokyo, so forth and so forth. So he was asked this question. I think it was a Red Bull Music Academy lecture that he was at. Let's see, I think there's two of them on YouTube. It's one of those two, and he was saying that it got to a point like the touring and stuff. Like I mean, the Roots, the band, they like toured like they the most probably well toured hip
Hip
hop
hop.
band
Yeah.
of all time. But he said it got to a point like the beginning was cool. It got to a point where it became like um I don't know if I can use the word tedious, but it got to a point where they would go to Tokyo. Let's take Tokyo for instance. You go to Tokyo and you climb off the plane and you experience Western civilization.
Yeah.
So
Instead
he
of
was
the
saying that
experience.
when they started going to Tokyo, they experienced Tokyo, they experienced Japan.
You want to
But
get culture shocked sometimes, like.
exactly, you want to experience the culture. And with the like the last few times we're going to Tokyo, there was the McDonald's, there was the KFC, there was all of those things, and it felt like home away from home. And
Mm.
it's not a good thing also because at the end of the day you want to experience that culture. So that's what's happening. It's happening globally, economically, and because it's like everywhere you go, it's like multinational companies setting up everywhere, and because of that, the music and the arts is going to be infiltrated as well.
Globalization, yeah.
It's unfortunate. It's
The
unfortunate,
thing
but
is,
that
it's
is the case.
I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing in the sense of the whole global market and like the multinationals taking over, but it's a good thing
Yeah,
in the sense of the fact that there's an open market for us to now, like, we can make music and share it with America and share it with New Zealand and share it with other places and stuff, and people can actually be open to being like, yo, this is South African vibes, or this is this vibes, and this is this kind of thing, you know what I mean? So yeah,
exactly,
no, it
exactly.
is a good thing, man. But bro, hey,
So
we've
look
gone off a few
at
tangents there, man.
at the end of the day, and I know this is also one of your things that you delve into as well. At the end of the day, we are interconnected.
Mm.
So this time in our existence as a species on this planet, it was inevitable. Whether it is the right way of doing it or not, like per se now the internet and the interconnectedness of us as a species, and everything that goes with it. Like we now just spoke about the globalization of the planet. It was inevitable.
Mm.
We are, and I foresee it probably getting to a point where we're probably going to be we're gonna be living in a place where there's no borders. You know, it probably will get to that point. Let
Did
me
you ever
just
see that?
lighten up this.
Did you ever
Let me just lighten up this.
did you used to watch South Park?
Hey,
Did you used to watch South Park?
um, I wasn't like a big South Park fan,
Did you ever
but
see
I watched them.
there was this one episode where these so it was like a whole spoof on, you know how like Americans or even in England or wherever, like people come here and like they took our jobs, these foreigners are coming here and taking our jobs. So there was
Yeah,
this thing where these aliens were coming back to Earth and then working for less and whatever. But the thing about these aliens, they were all like uniform, they were all like brown skin, they all looked the same. And they weren't actually aliens, they were just basically like humans from the future coming back to the
uh,
past because there's no jobs in the future. So they're coming back, and basically in the future everyone just looked the same, just this uniform, brown skin, whatever kind of thing.
yeah,
Maybe that's where we were
but
moving towards.
but there's was this book that this guy, I don't know who the author is, basically speculating that by the year 2050 or some year like close to now, 2030, 2040 or 2050, one of the two, one of those three, that the globe will basically be brown because of of like I mean everybody
Intermixing
is
and yeah,
everywhere now.
intermixing and everything
Yeah,
going on, bro. Yeah, I mean, if you look at how mixed people in general, obviously, like within the colored community, you get all the spectrums from the whitest white to the blackest black, but generally everyone is kind of brownish. So if you think about it
yeah.
in that respect, like with how mixed we are, have you done a DNA test yet or anything?
No, no, I want to actually. Funny thing is that my father passed away in
Oh, sorry.
2014.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Passed away in 2014, and at his funeral, I met this old lady. Um, Long story short, she basically says like, "Yo, the people that live behind you, do you know that they family of you?" I'm like, "No."
Hey, this is a common
Anyway,
occurrence with us, actually.
yeah. So my mother comes up and she says, "Yeah, your father said that that is like part of his family as well." So then she gave his aunt from Menenberg gave me the newspaper clippings that she got handed down to her. Um, and look, but in the colored community, there's a whole lot of mixture. So I always, for the longest time, like I've been on this whole Black consciousness movement, on discovering myself, understanding that, like, you know what, as light as I am, I'm more black than I am white.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. No,
You
no,
get
no,
me
of
going
course. Yeah, yeah.
with it? Yeah. So I had all of that in my mind, but I also knew that, like, look, to be fair,
There's a
You are
European
fancy.
presence. There's a European
You are
presence in
fancy.
there.
Yeah. So the thing is, I know that there's European presence. I just need to find where's my African lineage, because that is a definite. I just need to find it. I
Mm.
mean, if I look at my mother's side, her father was dark, you know. So, and from
Yeah.
my father's side, there's a lot of light skinned Muslims. So anyway, so the newspaper clipping showed that there was a Jewish guy that befriended a Nama Khoi lady in Oudtshoorn, and he he never was them. He never got married to the lady, but
Mm.
he got married to another lady, and from her offspring, the, there was this ward counselor here in the Wasim, in the area that I live in. His surname was Twig,
Okay.
and we actually family, and we never knew, because this Jewish guy got married to that lady. That's where Twig comes from. But the Jewish guy was first with this other
Other
lady,
lady, the
which
Khoi
is
lady.
where we come from. And yeah, I still need to find out. So I'm definitely want to do the DNA thing, but I also want to go to Oudtshoorn and find
Bruh, you're
my
gonna find
lineage.
some heavy stuff there. I mean, like, I would assume that a lot of the Cape, well, people in the colored people in the Cape would have more Khoi or San heritage in them
Mm.
than us, like from the colonies. You can call it from like Durban or Joburg or whatever. But then at
Not
the same time,
necessarily.
yeah, but that's what I'm gonna say. Not necessarily, because at the same time, because of the movement of people and so when I did my test, bruh, like there's like it's basically everything I thought. But it's so mixed. Like you got Southeast Asia and India and the Philippines in that area, which make up almost like 30% of my DNA. Then you
Okay.
got like, yeah,
And it's
because
funny. It's
because
funny.
of
You
the
got
slaves that
married,
they brought,
and you
you
got
know.
married to an Asian chick as well.
And I got married to it's weird. But then you see, like, because you see how my eyes are like kind.
Yes, exactly.
When people used to tell me I look Asian, I used to say, "No, that's from the Bushmen," because the Bushmen actually have the same features, and many South Africans will have those features
Yeah.
based on the Xhosa and the Bushman people. You know what I mean? But then at the same time, I've got like, so it's like almost in thirds. So like there's European presence, which is like 1/3 all over Europe,
Yeah.
with like
Yeah.
12% Jewish going on there. And then all
Uh-huh.
over Europe and whatever, British and all that stuff. Then there's
Okay.
African all the way up to West African. Like, I mean, there's a big percentage, like say 12% of like Khoi or San. I don't know which it is. It just says South African hunter gatherer. And then like the
Okay.
rest of it is like African, like West African, or like they call it Bantu people. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So it's like 1/3 there, 1/3 of that, and then 1/3 Southeast Asian, which makes sense because you had the Europeans who came, slave masters, went to the east, brought slaves back, and then everyone mixed with the local people, and there we came. So
Yeah.
I mean, the percentages will vary in different people, you know, to more or less, you know, depending on where you're from. But it's gonna be mixed like that, that's for sure. It's
And
heavy
and
mix.
and, and the thing also is like, there's speculation that um the Khoi or the Khoi Kun and the Bushman, because of the way their eyes are slanted, and the Asian people, that they, who's
Originate
not to
from the K.
yeah, who's not to say that they didn't, move in that direction, or that the if you look at is it anthropology? Is that
Anthropology,
the
yeah. Yeah.
yeah? I just want to put on this light quickly. Just bear with me a second. Or maybe I'm gonna just stand somewhere else.
But there was a Japanese anthropologist who actually
Mhm.
said or postulated that the Japanese share the same genome as the Bushmen, and because the Bushmen have the oldest genes in
Yes.
existence, they believe that Asians originated from these people when the migrations happened thousands and thousands of years ago.
Yeah. So basically, what it comes down to is that um, when you look at the Wasm at the Nama people, okay, if you look at the Khoi Kun and the Bushman people, they moved down from the Great Lakes, which is basically Central Africa. They moved down into Africa They were
Yeah,
the
they are
first
part
ones
of
here.
the Niloti.
They moved down into South Africa. Yes. They moved down into Southern Africa. They were the first ones here. That's why they can lay claim to this land over anybody else. They were here first because Bantu came afterwards. Also, again, from the same, roughly the same area, but they came down. Um, so now the speculation is that Asians probably also came from that exact same place, but moved out to Asia, or
On the other
you
side,
had, or you had um, maybe some of the the Bushmen moving that way as well. Because I mean they were always walking, but the thing is that doesn't make sense to me because they hunter gatherers, so they're only going to move as far as where they can hunt. And then they weren't nomads, but they they weren't explorers, so to say. You know, so I go more with the former mindset of like the Asians were also from the same people in Central Africa, and they moved in the opposite direction or in a different direction. But yeah,
So
it's
did
a
you have you
fascinating.
heard about so do you know about Kamisa and like
Yeah,
the history that's been now rewritten? Because like when we were in school we bloody just learned about the fucking Jan van Riebeck and the shit he came and he came to come do all this stuff. But now they're obviously saying like apparently there were people from the east, the Phoenicians, and I'm talking about like 10,000 BC and whatever, who actually, or even like way before, long before the Dutch and the Portuguese came to Africa, were already coming, and the Bushmen were meeting these people and interacting with these people and trading with these people long before.
yeah,
In the same way, like there's this guy who was on Joe Rogan who was talking about how black people were already in America and South America long
yes.
before Columbus came. He even
I
goes
would
on to say of the fact that the whole slave trade wasn't as big as people think. They're saying that it was too much of an expense. There were people already there, black people, and they just turned them into slaves. And yes, there was a small percentage of slaves brought over
yeah,
and stuff, which is interesting, man.
yeah, yeah. Look, there's a book by a guy called Ivan Van Sertima. It's called "They Came Before Columbus." That's the book's
Yeah.
name. So there was in his book he details that there were black or there were Africans, black people, black African people in Watson. That's an oxymoron actually. Black African. There were African people in Watson in America before Columbus got there, and they were the ones also that after maybe like decades of being there, um, that because of the climate, their skin could have turned reddish, and that's where the red Indian came from.
I never heard
Because
about that. I never heard about that
no,
either.
I'm just speculating that because if you think of it also like the European, the European also there's a speculation again. Now I don't know how much of this is fact or this theory, but the question always comes up. Okay, the if Africans have been on this planet for so long, but the history that's given to us, or the Europeans version, almost seems like
There was,
history starts 2,000 years ago.
yeah, there
Their
was
history
nothing
starts
before.
2,000.
Yeah, there was nothing before this shit.
So basically, their history is a young history. Our history is longer. So where did they come from? Now, Caucasian comes from the Caucasus Mountains. That's where the word Caucasian comes from.
Yeah, but even
Um,
that is it's like it doesn't make sense because like
yeah,
Caucasian doesn't mean only white or whatever those people.
yeah, Caucasian doesn't mean white. Caucasian basically means an area, Caucasus Mountains.
Yeah, and the
So
Caucasus
now
Mountains. Yeah,
the Caucasus Mountains is so what the speculation again, don't know how much fact or how much theory it is, but the speculation is um that albinism happened in Africa, and that when that happened, not as it is now, but when that happened at that time, um, they were seen as outcasts, and that albinos were driven out of
that's an interesting
their
one.
tribes,
That's an
and then
interesting one.
because their skin was a really light skin, they moved further away from Africa into Europe in a colder climate. Their noses then became thinner because obviously now the air is thinner, so your whole um, your
That is all
structure
passive.
of your body starts changing. The melanin in their eyes, they started losing the melanin in their eyes because obviously, depending, they were in the mountains. There's less sunlight. There's wasn't this snow, so the eyes started to lighten, blue eyes. The what's the melanin in their hair. Now this is not just like, oh, people appeared there and that happened. This was obviously over generations. This started to happen. So
It must have been
that's
like
the
thousands
speculation.
and over thousands and thousands of years you're talking like.
Yeah, so that is the speculation of where the European comes. Inevitably, all life started in Africa,
Mm.
and also with the slave trade, you are right there as well. A lot of times, the thing that doesn't that nobody wants to point the finger to is that slavery actually started with the Arabs. The
Yeah.
Arabs came into Africa, and they started stealing people, whatever, slaves, put them into slavery, whatever. The slaves that got sold into the transatlantic slave trade, it wasn't that there was white Europeans coming to Africa and stealing. Those were a lot of times Africans selling Africans into slavery.
Yeah,
And
that's
a
what
lot of
people don't
wars,
realize because there was obviously
yeah,
monarchy and they were
there
like,
was a
yeah, okay.
monarchy,
But
yes,
then
exactly.
obviously there was a large percentage of them that were actually taken though. But a
Yes,
lot of them were
there
actually
were a lot.
sold by their people, you know what I mean?
Yeah, so the ones that were sold were the ones that were like seen as not good for the community. So, for instance, the prisoners and stuff like that, they were sold off. The others were stolen. The others were stolen. Um, Saying like what's them like here, the the Khoi Khoi and the Bushman, they were doing trades with Portuguese and
Dutch then.
everybody
Yeah.
that was coming past. Um, but then you had Jan van Riebeeck come, and
Jan van Riebeeck
they
was the
had
bra who
agreements.
came and bloody
Yeah,
just wiped him.
they initially had agreements with him, and he
Mm.
had agreements with them. But then he decided to take more than what the agreement stated, and that's where the nonsense started. But he wasn't the first one, also, because there was the De Almeida, a Portuguese guy that also swam around. I think Portuguese or Spanish. De Almeida, I think it's Portuguese. Yeah.
Mm.
Also swam around. He also sailed around here, wanted to also steal sheep or something, and then they caught him and they killed him here.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we are like even colored people today, so-called colored people. We are seen as very we are hospitable people, man. We welcoming of anybody. Like it doesn't matter. We can have like
And South Africans, I'd
the
say, yeah. Definitely, man. Yeah.
South Africans in general, but I mean like if you look at like Cape Towndians, and I can only speak for Cape Towndians now, but we might have like some of the most dangerous areas on planet Earth, but there's people but there's people in those communities, like 80% of the people, most of the people there are good people,
Yeah.
you
This
know,
is what I
and
try
they
and
are
explain to
welcoming.
people as well, you know.
Exactly. The negative element or the bad element is but a small percentage, man. You
Mm.
know, so yes, there's welcoming people, but also don't push us. And that showed at least from that time, you know, like if you're gonna steal from us, we will kill. And that's what happened.
Mm, mm. But yeah, bro, I think
Yeah.
we've gone on for a while, man. Let's just before we finish, maybe what's your take on what's happening now? Like, what's it like there, bro? Like, I hear it's heavy, man. I hear it's bad there, like with the COVID and the lockdowns and the no alcohol, no cigarettes. People must be frustrated.
Yeah,
What's the
no,
what's the
no
what's
alcohol.
the climate like in South Africa, bro? Like, I mean, because here in the first world, people have it soft. Like, you know, they're
Yeah,
complaining, they're rather stressing because they can't go to the pub every night, whatever. But they can still sit in their houses and at least enjoy a drink and stuff like that. I mean, the lockdown's
yeah.
eased in London now. Everyone's again getting drunk and stuff. But what's it like there? How are the people coping? How are you coping?
Look, okay. For me, um, I've been a loner for a long time. You know, I'm just a guy that likes to be on my own. So this is nothing new for me. It's like
Same.
I was this was just gonna give me more time to myself.
I'm laughing because I'm exactly the same. I've been enjoying it.
But it's look, it's bad for the economy. That's a given. Like, people have lost their livelihoods. I've heard of businesses closing. I've driven past places where I've seen, like,
Nothing.
closed up shops, whatever. Whether they're just closed now for the lockdown, or they closed indefinitely. Well, they closed. Like, well, I mean, for instance, we had a budding craft beer industry in South Africa, and a lot of these micro breweries closed down because of the clamp on the ban on alcohol and on, yeah. So there was, like, I think, like a 2 week or 3 weeks where the ban got lifted, and so obviously people went back to work at those breweries. But when the second ban came down, a lot of them closed up shop. Um, yeah, the the worst is the poor, man. That's like, there's stories of the food parcels that government promised not getting out to the poor people, to the poor communities. The what's name the Some of the packages not being, like, next to nothing in the food packages. Like, there was a video where this guy posted on Facebook, and he showed, like, what food package his mother got, which was a pensioner, and he said, like, you can see that the food packages
Tampered
were
with.
some people someone was in the food packages, taking out for themselves, making the packets smaller. Like, there were bags of stuff where there was, like, literally dust. So he was like, he wouldn't even feed that to his own mother. He wouldn't even feed that to himself or to his dog.
Hey,
So you got instances where people are talking about corruption happening. Yeah, at the end of the day, um, it's not ideal. um, I stick to what I've said for the longest time, is that we as a country should never have been in this situation. South Africa is, and I'm going to use a hip hop term, bar for bar, the richest country in the world, where um, um, what's the natural resources is concerned. We maybe don't have as much black gold or oil as the Middle Eastern countries, but we've got gold, we've got platinum, we've got diamonds, we've got
uranium, plutonium,
yeah, we've got iron ore,
iron.
we've got even, like, we sell the stuff off to other countries, and then we get a finished car. Like we should have been creating more employment. We should be creating more. Like, our poverty percentage, our unemployment percentage should not be as high in this country as it is.
Bro,
And
that's not. That's even just natural resources. You're talking about. Do you know how much wine is exported from South Africa? How much fruit? How much apples? Like, what I've
yes,
noticed is, like, they leave all the cuck apples and shit there for us, or the South Africans, and
yeah,
everything else comes to Europe. I know, because when I go to the shop and I buy it and I see, oh, South African apples, I'm thinking, like, they send all the best
yeah,
shit
dude.
out the country.
But yeah, I just want to say, charge my phone quickly. Just bear with me a second. Dude, my thing was, when I went to London, and I saw the size of the what's the name of the, I think it was a banana. I was like, yo, like, I've never seen
I'm
bananas
sure
that
it
big
was
here in South
banana
Africa.
and not plantain, because I know that's something we're not used to over there.
What is that?
It's plantain, because I remember when I first came here, I saw plantain, which looks like banana, but it's not. It's not the same thing. Did you see a plantain,
Well,
baby? Oh.
bananas, oranges, whatever. Like, everything just looked bigger in London. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, well, they get the best from everywhere and they ship it over here, bro.
Exactly. So yeah, it's like, I mean, just on that again, on the whole COVID thing, and the situation here in the lockdown. It's like, if we were in a better position, financially as a country, then the lockdown wouldn't have needed to happen, um, to the extent that it has. Or it could maybe happen for like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, like the initial 21 or so days that it was going to be. just for government to get things into place, and then the economy could have gone ahead as it was, or even if for matter of fact, if it was to be locked down as long as it was now, we would have had everything in place to service the poor and the old and all those people that need most of the servicing, and it doesn't seem like it's being done at the moment because of where we are. I mean, like, yeah.
It's. I mean, like anywhere in the world, I'm sure the poor will be just as bad. But I suppose because in a place like that, the percentage of the rich, of the poor, is so high as well. Because I mean, like over here, if I think I have I have friends over there that are like in professional positions and they're not getting paid, they're not getting this or whatever. Whereas over here, I have friends who like work in bars or like in pubs, and they still getting like subsidies from the governments and stuff like that. You know.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. It's like our government has to now go borrow money, and we already, before there was some lockdown, got downgraded to junk status. So I mean, if you want to now borrow money from the IMF or the World Bank, there's got a higher interest rate immediately on your borrowing. We didn't need to, we why, like, again, that's the baffling part of it. A country with so much natural resources, with so much manpower to work that natural resources. Again, unemployment is high.
But you know
We
why?
have to have such
You know
high.
why? It's the legacy.
Yeah, I know
It's the
why.
legacy of the colonialism and the slave trade. Because when they said, "Okay, South Africa, you can be a free country," they didn't take away the banking systems and the financial institutions that they put in place. Barclays was still there. All these places were still there. They kept it there. This whole invention of debt that Africa is in is like one of the biggest scams in history, bro. Do you know what I mean? Just keep Africa there. Keep everyone down there in this foreign debt. I mean, what the fuck is foreign? Like, what the fuck? Do you know what I mean? You came there, you raped the country, you took the slaves, and then when they left, we had to now pay and reimburse you and like take out loans to kind of get fucking hell, bro. What the fuck?
And that's the thing also, like anybody, and I hear it a lot, man. It's like everybody go on like, yeah, you know, the government now. What people don't realize is that the government now had to also then take on the expenses and debt of the previous government.
Yeah, even the
it's not
apartheid government.
that government just. It's not like that government just packed up and said like, okay, we'll pay out debts. You got a clean slate. No, they had to take their debts firstly, and then also people can say what they want to about Julius Malema. You look at he plays his part and stuff
I
like
like him,
that.
man.
But he was
interesting guy.
But he was right when he said about the financial institutions, about the privatizing of stuff, about the fact that, like, look, they gave over the previous government gave over the government to now the leading party, but they didn't give over everything else. The economic or the financial sectors and stuff like that, that's still run by the same people.
Yeah.
You know, you just have black faces in key places to kind of appease the masses. But at the end of the day, if you have the Oppenheimers and the Ruperts give R1 billion with the lockdown now, they gave R1 billion towards them to the government for whatever needs to be done, whatever. Like that R1 billion is cheap change for them. Man.
That's why did you ever see that thing where Chappelle was, you know, when Chappelle ran away, took away, or he didn't take that much, whatever. He said something similar about, like, he's like, there's rich people and then there's like there's the people, like, you know what I mean? Like there's
like Shaq is the rich, but the guy that's signed tax check, he's wealthy.
You know what I mean? Those motherfuckers, like, you're talking about those, like the Rockefellers and like the legacies of those, like, you know what I mean, families that are, you know, running the world. Though
to prove my point as well, it's like if it was a really a democratic republic, if we really got our freedoms and all that stuff post 94, then we wouldn't have been in this issue. In this what's the now? Yes, greed does come to the fore, and I'm not wiping the ANC or any corruption I'm not wiping them clean of that, because at the end of the day, if you're a human being at the end of the day, and if somebody tells you like, no, I can slide you this tender, or I can give you this give you this amount of money for you to look the other way, greed comes into it. But the thing is, I can't be of the notion of put all the blame on the current government now and say like, because of you guys, this is where we are. No, this is a collective thing. This is the previous government and this government.
It's been happening for a long time. And obviously then just just getting worse and worse with like Zuma and those people and them just taking for themselves. Yeah. It's happened even before we got our independence, like Nigeria, Ghana, all those places. The same things have happened.
Yeah. Yeah. The same thing with the same thing with Zimbabwe as well. As much as I can agree with Robert Mugabe in the beginning. What he spoke, how he spoke out against the British and stuff like that. I can agree with a lot of that, but his actions afterwards was not in line with what he spoke about.
Yeah. And he was a freedom fighter, he was on the front lines, fought for it, got the government back, and then sat and started changing all of a sudden to like,
yeah. So it comes down to like the beginning. Maybe you're gonna have that where you have these freedom fighters. They fought for so long. They also want now a piece of the pie and stuff like that. But hopefully in years to come, we have people that have good moral ethics and stuff like that, and they actually work for the people and not for themselves.
But yeah, bro. Hey man, let me start closing up this. We've been waffling away for a while there, but it's been good to catch up, man. It's been good to touch base. Maybe just tell us where we can find out. You got some projects on the go? Are you still doing music? Are you still doing anything? Do you have anything we can do? Or send me the links and I'll put it in the description and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep this one short because I mean, if I'm gonna talk now, we're gonna go on for another 20 minutes, and it'll be 2 hours long. Yeah, look, we in the beginning, I was speaking about like where I came from, stuff like that, blah blah blah. So after Illuminate, just to quickly tie the timeline together. After leaving Superdan, I decided to leave that alias of Illuminate, and I decided to get a new alias. Settled on Perspektif, because for me, I'm always happy from my own point of view, my own opinions. So it's my perspective, and I took that as my alias. And I went solo. That's how I got to London. Also won the poetry competition. Won a competition that that local government was holding, and me and another 4 individuals or 4 artists, we found ourselves in London being
mentored. That's why I met you in the flesh, even though I knew of you before. Yeah,
you knew about me, but that's where we met in the flesh here. Came back, was working on an album, and then fatherhood happened. And it's like my wife always says like, it seems almost like I'm blaming that for a break. It wasn't that. I think what happened was my mindset changed. The things that I was writing at that time, it's not that I wasn't agreeing with it, because I still do. I agree with everything that I've put down ever. It's just that my mindset was changing. The
values.
And the inspiration was like not quite there, and I didn't want to force myself. I was halfway through my album. I didn't want to force myself to put out an album that I was going to look back at and I was like, I don't like this. So I put it away, and I took time out, and I sporadically performed here and there. I then concentrated more on production and stuff. So I've been like just making beats and stuff. I've been mixing and mastering and stuff like that. But in that time where between being like wholeheartedly focused on putting out the project, and now I looked at the scene from afar. So I know when you said like, you want to talk to me, when you messaged me about 2 weeks ago, you want to talk to me about, or you want to be on the podcast, I was thinking like, don't ask me about music, because I haven't I haven't been that focused on the music. And here's the reason why. I took a step back and I looked at the scene. And I've always said I'm of the culture and I'm for the culture first and foremost. Before the music industry, I'm for the culture. So I don't know if you watched the series Ballers with
Or
Dwayne
the
Johnson.
Rock. I wanted to, but I never got into it now.
Okay, so in the last season, he was an American football player, or an ex-football player, and he manages footballers and or American footballers and stuff like that. In the last season, he gets the opportunity to buy a franchise, and in the what's the like all the owners are basically the money is the bottom line. You know, the profit is the bottom line, and for him, he's all about the players. And when I saw that, now I only saw that last season like about 2 weeks ago. I was watching it, but it came out a while ago. But that's why I'm bringing that up because it speaks to my vision. I want to do something similar in Cape Town specifically. I've always been like people ask me when I mean, you know, as artists, most artists, uh, here in Cape Town specifically, have 9 to 5s as well. So besides doing the art is like basically like you do it after you come home from
Even
work.
in London,
So you
bro.
do
Even in London, it's similar.
yeah, even in London as well. So that time I would be traveling on the train to work, going into town and stuff, and people I would meet people that know me from performing, and they would always ask me like, "Dan, you should have gone to Joburg already by now." And I would always say like, "Nah, I don't want to go to Joburg because I don't want to do what every other Cape Townian artist or musician has done. Going to Joburg to for a livelihood. I want to create my livelihood here." And I understand that there are certain things that need to be worked at. Like I mean, when we were in London as well, there was a comedian that was with me, Sylvan Gesey. He's from South Africa, from Cape Town. Went with us. He was one of the five of us. And the first morning, we had breakfast when we got there, and he asked the question of like, why is there always division within the colored community? And I told him, you know why there's division in the colored community? Because he was the only black guy that was there amongst us. I thought the reason why there's division in the colored community is because we are so mixed, and because we're so mixed, we also don't necessarily understand our history. I told him you can look at the history that we learned in school, and you can see your forefathers in your history. You can see there was Dingaan, there was Shaka, there was Tupile, or whatever the other guys were. There was a representation of Zulu and Xhosa and Venda and Saperi and whoever. There was a representation
All
of
of
them.
them, yeah.
And the Basutu. In our representation in the book was Harry the Strandloper at the beginning of the history book, and that's it.
I remember that.
So
I
so
remember that.
and his name wasn't even Harry. You know, that wasn't even his name. But
And it doesn't
the
even
fact that
represent us properly because that represents the Khoi people and color people is something we get wrong. Is we're not all that. I mean, we have a percentage of the DNA in us, but not all of us are that. We're not.
That's it.
You know what I mean? We're not that. We are something else. We are actually an indigenous creation of South Africa. I feel like, you know what I mean? We were made there.
Yeah. Here's the thing. It's like the Khoi and the Bushman and all the different tribes within those two names. Now, yes, they this is their land. They are the first nation people, the first people to gather here. But not every so-called colored is also of that descent.
Yeah, there's some
Because
colors that don't even have of that. I'm sure that, you know what I mean? Or maybe
because
minute percentages.
because what happened was them, you had the Khoi and the Bushman, you had the what's name, you had Angolans that were imported from Angola to come work here as well. You had
Javanese, Malay,
yes, you had all that. So we were
Indonesians, Chinese,
yeah,
Indian.
exactly. So we were a melting pot. Like I mean, one of one of the tattoo artists that done a tattoo on me, Bradley Kanasashi. He's from Manenberg. His mother is colored. Obviously, so his mother's from Manenberg. but his father is Japanese, and his father worked at the docks, and apparently looks like a colored guy, you know. But that, but that's the dynamic of our community. So yeah, not everybody can say that they are koi and stuff. Um,
But
yeah,
yeah,
lost my
man.
now.
You were
um,
busy gonna you were gonna tell me about your project or what you'd like to do in
oh yes. So I started. So that's the thing. We are such a melting pot. We don't know our history, and because of that not knowing your history can cause division in your community. Like you will see black people stand together. Now, yes, there's a lot of tribes. There's Zulu and Xhosa. They fought each other already. They still fight each other. Blah blah blah. There's Sotho and Zulu fought each other. There's a lot of those instances because there's another misconception when it comes to Africa. It's like people in America or wherever believe that like, oh, Africans are harmonious. They love together. No, there was wars.
Yeah, of course, man.
Different
Yeah.
tribes warred each other. But the fact of the matter is, in the colored community, is that it's hard for us to me. It seems like it's hard for us to stand together and support each other because of that not understanding and knowing. And a
Well,
lot of times
it's a
people,
lack of knowledge of self. You
as
know
a
what I mean?
there we go, a lack of knowledge of self. Also, the thing is, we always get taught, and again, this comes from politics, because we were in between. We were so-called second-class citizens with a little bit of what's our freedoms. So, because of that, we saw ourselves better than black, and
That's the worst. That's
because
one of
of
the worst things as well.
just all the second quickly,
Yeah, I'll edit it.
because of the because of us now being separated from black, so to say. um the what's the name the we assimilated more to the European,
Mm.
and because of the assimilation to the European, we felt like we were better than our black counterparts,
Yeah,
which
because we
was
took
not
the
the case.
religion, we took the culture, we took the religious, all that shit. You know what I mean? Whether it was
We
whatever.
took everything.
Mm.
Yeah, and because of that, we now saw ourselves better than, but also because of that as well, we didn't also know our real history. We didn't know that like we are more African than we are European. So
Mm.
that's why you still get people in the so-called colored communities now where they will say like, oh, you know what, I'm so much percent Irish, or I've got
They'll rather
German
look
blood,
to the Europeans like
but they will never mention
that they're
anything
black.
here. And I mean, like the Khoi and the Bushman is so unique, and they've contributed so much to the country that they even contributed the cliques of the Xhosa.
Mm.
Like the Xhosa has 3 cliques, but in the Nama language there's 4 cliques,
Yeah.
and they've only used 3 of those cliques. So like they even contributed where that's concerned. But so you see, I said I don't want to speak for 20 minutes, but yeah. Look, my goal right now is when we met in London, I was an artist. I was focused on my artistry and being an artist. I'm now at the point where I want to build up the capital and the funding to create the platforms for other artists. Um, and it's not just like, oh, running events or having workshops and stuff like that. It's literally like to the point where I can offer artists the opportunity for them not to have a 9 to 5.
Mm.
For them to actually like, you know what, you need to concentrate on your art and put out art. Um, and we market and promote that art. In a nutshell, I want to have my own Muslim. I want to start my own label. I want to start, and everybody can say that it's easy to start a label, but most independent labels are underfunded.
Well, that's why I always like with my company, Abstract Sun, and we called ourselves a production company because I would never want to call myself a label when I can't give someone a contract and be like,
Yeah,
here's the money, here's your marketing, here's your publishing, Alice, I'm going to do all that for you. We're going to pay for your studio time, all that. you can't do it if you don't have that kind of funding. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but now that's where my focus has been for the last couple of years, because I see how much talent goes to waste, and I see also how much, like myself as well. I know how it is to work 9 to 5, come home,
And be
have supper,
tired.
be with the kids for a little bit, and then you're too tired
Yeah.
um, to creatively come up with something. You know, because your creative juices is done.
Yeah,
Like
because then
you
the thing is, when
you
you're at
use the
work,
creative juices at your 9 to 5.
yeah, when you're at your 9 to 5, then you're thinking of all these ideas and stuff, and you think, hey, I must come home and write it. But by the time you come home, you dead, man. You like, you have your dinner, you play with the kids, put them to bed. After you put them to bed, then it's like already 9, 10 o'clock, and then what? You just want to chill on the TV and go to bed.
I mean, and I don't knock anybody that can't do that, but I've been in that situation. I've seen others also. Like I watched a documentary not too long ago called about Motown records, and I mean that was literally like a factory of producers, songwriters, artists, and they were like day in day out just working on music. Like there was no need to go do a 9 to 5 because that's what we were paid to do. Now that's my thing. Is like for that to happen, a lot of times we have to go to Joburg for that to happen. And then it's an uphill battle because you are out of town in somebody else's town fighting for a piece of the pie, of their pie. And I know it is naive to think of it because I've watched other documentaries with people in the UK or wherever would say like, I was born in, they said Birmingham or Manchester or Leeds. And
Oh, it's very common, yeah.
And I had to move to London to make this thing work for me. I understand that, and that's why I understand that there's a learning factor to moving towards them to Joburg. But again, they are, let's say, quote unquote, there's about 1.5 million people. There's a million people in Mitchell's Plain alone. Mitchell's Plain is the biggest, township, so to say. Yeah, in Cape Town, and probably next to Soweto, the second biggest in South Africa. So let's say a million people. If you are a household name in Mitchell's Plain, why can't you become a millionaire as an artist selling just to Mitchell's Plain? Like these things, they have never made sense to me.
Yeah, if each of those 1 million people give R1, that's R1,000,000.
Exactly. But now I understand the dynamics. I understand the no knowledge of self. And we have no knowledge of self, there's self-hate. So you hate what looks like you.
Yeah, because that's why anytime anyone has a nice car, whatever, it's okay, guy, man, take a look at him. He's trying to keep him, whatever he's trying to be, this, he's trying to be there.
But what I also realize is that like nobody's going to buy into an artist that look just like them. And I'm not meaning like face, like how your skin color and the way you talk about it. I'm not talking about that. It's like there is a reason why people want to see some sort of success, and then they start following you. Not everybody hops onto the bandwagon from the beginning. There's not a lot of what they call it, the people that the early adopters. There's not a lot of early adopters. There's very few early adopters. But the masses only hop on when they feel like, yo, you're onto something. So for instance, with youngster, 20 odd mixtapes into it, comes out with his debut album. He is garnering all the attention now is because people are starting to see that he's getting some sort of success. He's rapping he's on live on national TV, on national radio. He's performing with Joburg artists, so they see that as a success. Now, yes, he's got a good team behind him and all that stuff, but there's a lot of artists that don't have that. So that's the thing. It's like
there's creating those teams.
It's like, again, coming down to the Motown thing. They had people that were that basically taught the artists how to talk when they're on front of a camera, when they're doing interviews and stuff like that. As things that are overlooked nowadays.
No, very overlooked.
That's how labels they had to groom you to be an artist. You had to make the music, but they had to make you look good. Now it's another thing. The same thing here. It's like we have a lot of self-hate and stuff, but we will gladly support someone that looks like they're having success. But that costs money.
Yeah, of course.
You see, and So that's been my focus for the longest time now. It's like, look, I'm turning 38 this year. I'm a quote unquote an old guy in a young, what's the game. Everybody is young, this young, that youngster CPT, nasty season. They're all in their 20s, all in their early 20s. So um, can I still perform with him? Yes, I can still perform with him. Can I outbar him? I can probably still outbar him. But that and I will definitely put out music. I'll definitely put out beats. I will send you the links or whatever as things come about. But my focus is to create a foundation for the next generation of
Oh,
artists.
what I'll do, bro, is we'll keep an eye on that, man. And then as my podcast develops and stuff, we'll keep coming back and keep having conversations and stuff, man. But
And also,
yeah.
last thing, I see we got 30 minutes before 2 hours. You can make 2 hours full. No, I'm just playing. Short and sweet. At the end of the day, everything that we spoke about our community, our so-called colored, and I don't like the term so-called colored.
I hate that term even.
I understand why people gravitate to it. I understand that like Kendrick Lamar made he took the word nigger and the goose and created a positive out of it. I mean, he wasn't the first one. Tupac also with NIGGA, never ignorant, getting goals accomplished. He made took a negative connotation, made it positive. So that's cool for colored people. If you want to do that, I got no problem with that. But we are missing the glaring thing is that if we just subscribe to that term, then we forget our true lineage. And our lineage is who we are. It's like, are you, like you said, you're 30% this, you are that. You can't just want to say like, oh, I'm just European, but then you forget about your African ancestry. Because your ancestry runs through your blood. There's 7 generations of ancestry in your blood. So so basically what that's saying is you just appeasing your European genomes, and you don't give a damn about what's the about the African
side and the Asian side.
Yeah, that don't make sense. So I'm not meaning you now, I'm talking about in general. So the whole point also about the label, it's not just a label. I'm looking at inevitably having a media house, because it's too often and too much that the European is telling our story and selling it back to us. We have so many good filmmakers, scriptwriters, documentarians that could tell our own story. We need the funding for it.
I think it's slowly starting to happen, man. It's definitely
it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely on my list of I mean, like, obviously, they say you need to obviously make your house right first before you can help others. And that's kind of where my thing is like, those are all in my plans as well. And I want to obviously at some point come back and give back and whatever, and give back skills and hopefully money as well. But I need to make my house right first. You know what I mean? So
exactly.
Let's keep an eye on that, man. But bro, let's close. I feel like I must say your prayer. This was a long discussion, bro. But no, thank you so much, bro. That was really, really, really interesting, man, and nice to actually catch up. And we must stay in touch, man, definitely. And I'll get you back on at some point and see how things are going once the lockdown is over.
Yeah, no, definitely. Look, I know this long podcast is a headache. I was a part of a podcast not too long ago, and we always had issues with like you would say like, okay, 45 minutes to an hour. The next thing you know, again, 2 hours.
3 hours later. This is my first one actually that's gone on so long, but yeah, no. But yeah, no, bro, honestly, it's been a pleasure, man, and it's been good to connect again. So thank you for coming. People, this is the Other Side of the Sun podcast. Like, subscribe, notification, blah, blah, blah. You know what to do. And Perspektif, blessings, man.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Facebook, Perspektif, PERSPEKTIF. Yeah, there's some stuff on YouTube as well, but you can find me on
Send me
Instagram,
and I'll put some links as well in the thing. So